The man never imagined he had originally been a senior programmer simply because of long hours of excessive overtime. Unexpectedly, he collapsed and died at his workplace. When he opened his eyes again, he discovered that he was already in another world. Reincarnated as a rookie monster tamer, his skill panel showed his HP and MP bars were only 10 points each. Dan was instantly dumbfounded, but since he had already arrived here, he quickly came to terms with reality. At that moment, a soft sensation suddenly came from his palm. It turned out he had touched a slime. What he didn't expect was, the slime was instantly tamed by him. Dan's mind immediately became a bit confused. Watching the slime run deeper into the forest, Dan followed closely behind. Soon he saw an ancient wooden cabin. Inside, he found it piled with all kinds of magic books. After confirming there was no danger, Dan casually picked one to read, but unexpectedly, just one glance. The next second he directly mastered 4 elemental magics. Even his HP and MP bars reached triple digits. The next second, a large number of slimes appeared at Dan's feet. They all wanted to become Dan's monsters, and Dan did not hold back. He tamed them all at once. Afterward, the slimes actively opened the books on the shelves, absorbing all the magic within, and through knowledge sharing, Dan mastered all the magic the slimes had learned. He even awakened a second profession, gaining the title of Sage.
話せるのか?
Soon, a week passed. Dan registered as an adventurer. That day he was in the forest gathering herbs for a quest. Unexpectedly he was attacked by a humanoid monster. But the next second, the slime unleashed a fireball, instantly killing it. After dealing with the monster, Dan prepared to head to the guild to report, but he overlooked the red crystal dropped by the monster. Meanwhile, Dan arrived at the adventurers guild. Everyone noticed the slime on his shoulder. The receptionist thought Dan had returned so quickly. The quest must have failed, so she wanted to comfort him. But unexpectedly, the slime on Dan's shoulder had storage ability. It directly spat out an excess of quest items. The receptionist was completely stunned. She hurriedly called Guildmaster Rajesh to handle it. Although Dan was a newly registered adventurer, because he repeatedly overfulfilled quests, he had already left a deep impression on the Guildmaster. Dan was just about to remind the Guildmaster about the humanoid monster, but the next second, someone rushed in to report. Smoke suddenly rose from the forest, signaling a major crisis. Dan immediately contacted all the slimes within a 10-kilometer radius. He discovered a massive number of monsters encircling from all directions. Their target was the novice village where Dan was. Seeing that the monsters numbered nearly 10,000, the Guildmaster hoped everyone would quickly evacuate and not make unnecessary sacrifices. But unexpectedly, no one was willing to abandon the ordinary villagers. At this moment, Dan stepped forward. He declared that he had a way to deal with the monsters. He then took out a piece of dragon bone, explaining that he could use it to summon dragonfire to wipe out all the nearby monsters. At this point, there was no other choice, so everyone decided to trust Dan. Soon, under Dan's arrangements, the adventurers each received a potion and stood ready outside the city. They hurled weapons into the sky, then had the archers shoot arrows. As the arrows struck the weapons instantly exploded into countless blades raining down, but the effect on the monsters was minimal. A massive battle was about to erupt. Meanwhile, Dan's mind was racing, trying to select a spell that could both protect the city and attack on a large scale. And on the outskirts of the town, there were already people investigating the cause of the monster army's attack. They discovered it was a man in black holding a ruby oil lamp. Seeing this, the girl activated a teleportation array. She teleported the slime above the black-clothed man's head, without giving the opponent any time to react. The slimes instantly bound him tightly, and Dan used the slimes to cast magic, transforming the ruby oil lamp into an ordinary stone. This way, no more monsters will be controlled and sent flooding toward the novice village. The number of monsters was far too great. The adventurers were almost completely exhausted. Dan had the slimes act as small turrets, firing continuous fireballs to help suppress. Seeing the monsters appear across an ever wider area, Dan finally came up with a solution. He began to blanket the surroundings with firepower, telling the adventurers to all find cover. Then he cast a massive barrier to cover the entire city, and ordered the slimes to surround the city. However, even after Dan consumed 200,000 points of mana, he still failed to eliminate the more distant monsters. Now his MP bar was already at minus 200,000. Continuing to use it would have a severe impact on his HP bar as well, but Dan still insisted on taking the risk. Another powerful burst of flames erupted, with 2 consecutive ultimate attacks. He finally wiped out the monsters completely, but Dan collapsed to the ground from overexertion. When he woke up again, it was already midnight. During this time, the receptionist lady had been taking care of him. Seeing that Dan was fine, she felt relieved. She then asked Dan why he risked his life to save the city, but Dan did not answer. He only looked at the people inside the city who were holding a banquet to celebrate the end of the crisis. Seeing this, the receptionist did not press further. She simply took away the dishes and reminded Dan to rest well. But unexpectedly, Dan secretly left while no one was around. The reason was that he didn't want to cause a commotion because of himself. He could only head to the next city to continue living a peaceful life.